Well, the Lord convinced them that they needed to get into the boat, and he wanted them to get into the boat and head to the other side. He constrained them. He actually pushed them into doing it because they kind of knew better than to go get in that boat, because they were used to being on the lake, and they'd seen many a storm, and maybe many a storm had taken them by surprise. And well, here they are in the middle of the boat, and things are going on, and the storm is raging, and Jesus comes walking on the water. And we've been discussing that for the last couple of days and a week or so. And so let's pick up. I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on this morning. And we want to look at, I'm going to bring my notes around here so I can see everything I'm doing. All right. Peter asked the Lord a question. The question is, how are you asking? Sometimes we ask the Lord things that maybe we're asking him wrong. So I want to take you over to Matthew chapter 14, verses 28 through 29. And Matthew 14, 28 through 29. And you can see here that Peter is curious about this thing. And Peter asked a question. He's just like that. He likes to question everything. Peter was good at doing that. And although his intent was good, I want you to notice how Peter worded this question. This question is important. And Peter, the Lord said, "I be of good cheer. Hey, everything's gonna be all right. Basically, do not be afraid." But here in Matthew 18, verse 28, Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it be thou, bid me come to thee walking on the water." Lord, if it's really you, bid me to come. Now Peter desired, now listen to me, Peter desired to walk in the miraculous, but the way he asked the question, I believe, was kind of incorrect. He kind of pushed the Lord back into a corner. Perhaps it wasn't really God's plan for Peter to walk on the water. This wasn't necessarily God's best. It's possible that Peter's faith wasn't totally up to walking on the water and enduring all the unbelief that would come from that action. But Peter specifically asked, "Lord, if it's you, you bid me to come to you on the water." And what was the Lord going to say? He pushed the Lord into a corner, and the Lord couldn't say nothing but say, "Hey, it's me, come on out here," right? And Peter asked. The way Peter asked the question left Jesus with no option for a different answer. You know, it's important how you and I question or ask God questions and discern his will for our lives. In other words, you and I need to be careful how you ask your question. If you're believing God for something miraculous, you need to make sure it's God leading you to do it instead of you backing him into a corner. Are you asking God something like, do you want me to serve you by being in full-time ministry or not serve at all? If you ask him something like that, what's he going to say? You may have a vision of full-time ministry that may not be his. He may want you in full-time ministry, but it may not necessarily be doing what I do or so your pastor's doing. But all of a sudden we ask these questions and we say, "Lord, if you want me in full-time, you want me to do this, do that, or don't you want me to do anything?" If that's the way you phrase your question, you know what he's going to say? He's going to say, "Serve me." He's going to say it every time. In other words, you and I need to be careful that you're truly being led by God in what you want to step out of the boat and believe for. And that you're not just misunderstanding or confusing and phrasing things in an incorrect way. Well, let's look over here at verse 29 now. Peter had taken his attention off of everything that was hindering them from making it to the other side, and he was looking at Jesus. And this is what Jesus said, verse 29 of Matthew 14. Jesus very simply said, "Come." I mean, well, wasn't nothing else for him to say. He wasn't going to say it's not me, right? Because it was him walking on the water. So he says to Peter, "Come." And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. He walked on the water. He went to Jesus walking on the water. Listen, Peter was believing that he could do miraculous things. Do you ever believe that way, that you can do miraculous things as well? You can. God wants to use you in some marvelous, wonderful ways.